No, I mean, there's so much to unpack with what you just said, like Atari 2600, like that struck a nerve with me because when I was 5 years old, I walked onto a construction site in Nokomis, Florida. This is before safety fences and everything. I was 5 years old, climbing on the dozers that were left behind, but I went and picked up some plywood. I wasn't able to afford a 2600, so I fucking drew one on a piece of wood. I took a little like 2x4 square and put a nail in and drew the little red button and drew Pac-Man on the wood, right? And I'm fucking like pretending to play Atari 2600.
I love it.
Uh, but anyway, the one thing that I wanted to ask you about, because you talked about adversity, you talked about innovation, you talked about something kind of transcending an idea and turning into a plan, or maybe you didn't say a plan, but a business proposal. There's just so much to unpack there. But what do you think is like still missing in the industry today? Out of everything that you experienced over the past 30 years, what's
Yeah.
still missing? What hasn't changed, or has none of it changed?
What hasn't changed is leadership. And I'll be direct. The problem is not technology. The problem is poor leadership. And people are not going to like me saying that, but the reality is BIM and VDC have been around for over 25 years, right?
Hmm.
I mean, 1990, in 1974, Chuck Eastman coined the term building, systems or whatever. It was a noun. It was building information. Sci-Fi coined VDC in 2001 or two, which provided us the methodology. And since then, and then Autodesk in 2002 coined the phrase BIM as a process, and confused everybody. And the confusion still exists today.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, the challenge when I say leadership, and look, it's not about, we don't have good leaders. It's that leaders fail to understand how to integrate these technologies into what we do, how we do it, why we do it. And I've seen it year after year, and this is the most frustrating thing because it's like you know I have a lot of great things to say about Mortensen, because you know we were doing things that people still are just figuring out today, and I'm talking 15 years ago. And it wasn't because like we had the smartest people. It was because we connected and we created a community and we shared knowledge, and leadership supported it. And I still don't see that today in many companies.
Yeah.
It's a leadership problem. Like, leadership got it back then, and they pushed us in a direction. And I had the opportunity to lead that team. 2012, when I was the director of integrated construction, and it's integrated construction. It wasn't BIM and VDC, because in 2006, we had a naming little competition. What should we be called? BIM, and I remember telling my boss, I'm like, I don't want to be fucking called BIM. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And I'm like, I was like, we're integrators. I want to be called integrated construction. And it wasn't my I didn't come up with the name. It was this guy Ian Roth. He was an architect who we hired, and he was part of our BIM and VDC team. He suggested integrated construction, and I was like, yes, that's it, homie. Boom, let's do this. We got consensus. We went to leadership, integrated construction. It was awesome. We were like, yeah, we're changing. We're not BIM people. We're not VDC people. We're integrated construction people. That's the key. So the problem with leadership is, like, they don't understand that it's integrating this digital transformation into what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. And over the years, and it's been apparent in the last 5 years with after COVID, there's been an explosion of BIM and VDC consultants across the world, right? So, like, I do consulting calls with research companies that are looking to invest in
Yeah.
technology and the market in the AEC industry. And last year, I had about, I would say, six over the course of the year investors that I had calls with that were looking to invest in BIM and VDC consulting companies. And to me, it was like, oh, that's a really interesting. You want to invest in that? Got it. Why? Let's break this down, right? Let's apply the five whys. Why are you investing in this? What's happening? What's the root cause? And the root cause, when I boiled it down, was BIM is something companies think we can buy. And it is not. And that is why the industry is stuck with a $15.8 billion leakage. It's because of that. The whole ISO 19650, all these standards, BIM is a process. BIM is not a process. BIM is a noun. It's an object. It's a digital twin, data-rich digital twin. Virtual design and construction is applying action to that noun. VDC is just planning and scheduling, estimating, designing, engineering, right? But we've been sold that BIM is a process. ISO 19650 sounds great. The government is pushing it down, right? It makes sense for the standards companies because all they're doing is creating an environment where it's all about, compliance. It's all about, now we have consultants that you can go and outsource to get compliant, right? We get to train people. Meanwhile, the industry is not moving forward because nobody's helping the AEC firms kind of figure this out. They're just pushing standards down our throat. And then the software companies, BIM is a process. Why? Because they can take the entire ecosystem and wrap it around this buzzword. BIM is a process. Now you got 15 tools that you got to buy. So now we're as an AEC firm, we're gonna buy a shit ton of tools just to perform a process. Meanwhile, the reality behind it all, if you break it down back to Chuck Eastman and Seife, BIM is a noun, VDC is a verb. Apply it to your business process and you will win. That's the key. Not all this other bullshit, man. It's all bullshit. It's all about money. It has nothing to do about improving what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So I'm gonna piss people off, but it's all okay because I'm here to be salty and wired.
I was gonna say you sound a little both right now.
Oh yeah, I'm always a little bit of both.
Hey, so what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. Maybe not in that order. I forget. You know who I think first kind of ingrained that in your brain? None of these like techie people, big corporate CEOs. It was your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad. That lunch, that tribal campfire, so to speak, right? Figurative campfire, where you all are eating lunch, and you're talking about what do we do, how do we do it, and why do we do it. That's fucking gold, man. Like if you boil everything down, like that's what people should be focusing on, is what I'm hearing from you, right?
Yeah, man. It's a mindset. It's not what we do. It's not why we do it. It's not how we do it. It's the mindset of the approach. Innovation is an approach. It's a mindset. It's not a fucking tool. AI is not innovation. Robotics is not innovation. Like none of these tools we buy is innovation. It's how people use it. The outcome is innovation, right?
Well, you said something really cool before the show started. Something that was innovative, or like a tool that is innovation, and all it is a three-letter word. You want to expound on that real quick?
Yeah, the fundamental of so let's start with what innovation is, right? I just said AI is not innovation, and people are not going to like that.
No, they're not.
The reality is innovation, when you boil it down into the most simplest form, it's simply about improving life, right? As humans, we're blessed with logic, with creativity, and opposable thumbs, right? We are uniquely qualified as beings on this planet to solve problems, and that's what innovation is about. It's solving problems, not coming up with ideas. Before you can come up with an idea, you got a problem to solve, and the problems has to be something life faces. And for us, it's about people. It's about people. It's about environment. It's about nature. That's innovation. What we hear is fucking capitalist greed. That's what innovation has become. It's about differentiation. It's about making money. It's about making money. That's all it's about. But innovation is about improving life. So in order to start on that path of innovation, we first have to have a problem, right? And a lot of times, especially in our industry, because of the risk averse nature that we have, that's really propagated by a broken system driven by legacy legal and risk measures, right? I mean, that's what's holding us back. It's not people. It's the system, right? Regulatory agencies, it's like the entire system is broken. And we are asked to build faster, build cheaper, and build safer. So we have constraints. So in order to start breaking down the constraints, you have to shift your mindset. And the mindset shift starts with two powerful words. The two most powerful words in innovation in life is yes and. Why? Because I got to tell you, I know you all live this. You're on a job, you're in a meeting, and you share a great idea to solve a problem, right? And what do you hear? Yeah, but that's a killer right there. That kills innovation. That is a disrespect of people. When you say yes, but we don't have the budget. Yes, but we don't have the time. Yes, but leadership's not going to do that. Yes, but we tried that last year. I was like, yo, it's 12 months later, man. It's not last year. We got to shift that mindset. So when someone presents an idea, it's our job. The I in innovation is, what can I do to help somebody else succeed, right? So like, yes, and someone shares an idea, right? Yeah, you may have a negative response to it, but let's think about the mindset. In order to move things forward, we build upon with innovation. Yes, and, hey, the meeting, the schedule is behind because we, the field data is 2 days behind. We're not working up the latest information. Damn. Yes, and what if we can start providing better real-time capture of the work progress? How do we do that? Oh, we can have multiple people walk the job site. Or yes, and what if we use a reality capture tool like a 360 camera and put it in someone's helmet and walk around the job site? Yes, and then we can automate that information into the progress report. So instead of like having 3 people write a progress report for each trade, this just goes out to everybody. And it goes to the PM. So the PM in the soup knows exactly what happens when. And now we can provide reactive and proactive measures to help our people succeed, because that's what we do, right? Yes, and now we can update the look-ahead schedule. Oh, look, we can automate this process. Now, we're behind 2 days on this. Boom, here's a look-ahead, updated look-ahead. Now, all of a sudden, we move from like the technology tool to like the process and the automation that's going to help us allow our people to be successful. Because innovation, again, it's not about the friggin' tool. It's about improving life. How do we improve our people's life? And like in construction companies, I've heard it for way too long. Oh, the customer, the customer. You know what? Like, I'm so over that. I know the customer we're building for, we're designing for. That's great. And we're building it so they can generate money. That's why we're doing it. All right. There might be a good cause, but here's the thing. If we don't focus on our people, if we want to invest in our people, the customer's not going to get the value that we promised. And that's part of the problem in the industry, right? And, that's where, this, we talk about the what, why, how. This is where my 5-pillar strategy comes in. And it's about, you've heard the golden triangle, right? The people, process, tech. That is the golden triangle, right? That's like, it was developed in the 1960s and has been propagated ever since. It's a good foundation. Yes, the triangle is the strongest, form there is, right? So, but what's missing out of that is kind of like the purpose, the why. And then how do we know it's doing what it's supposed to do? And that's where the performance come in. So the 5 Ps is purpose, people, process, platform, which is tech, or it could be a hammer, and performance. So when you tie those 3 pieces together in an interdependent system, you create a mindset, and it applies to anything you do. I apply it to my life. I apply it to work. I apply it to planning. I apply it to project strategy, company strategy. It's a mindset, and it's an interdependent system, and people are at the center. So yes, and is the foundation of all that. And I know that was kind of long, kind of whirlwind of our explanation, but hopefully it kind of brings it all back to this concept of yes, and let's build upon it. It's not something you do like it's a time and place, right? You can have a hammer or a jackhammer. You're not going to use them for every situation, right? You have to know when to use it and why to use it, right? But instead of shutting someone down because that's what shit happens on the job site. Nope, we're not doing that. You're doing it my way. I remember a superintendent saying to a group of people, yo, this is not a democracy. You know, I set the rules and you follow it. That's how this works here, you know? And like, and this was an awesome superintendent, like, but this was, he had to say it in this situation because we had people misaligned, and so he needed to set the stage, but then he followed up with how he was going to help people, how he was going to ensure that we were all aligned. So there's a time and place, right? Saying this is, just leaving it as this is not a fucking democracy. This is, this is a dictatorship. That was his word. This is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship. It's my way or a highway. But yes, and this is how we're going to approach it. This is how we're going to help our people succeed. This is how we're going to meet our milestones. What do you need for support? And like that, and this was a $1 billion job, right? This was no little job. It was like 75 people in the pod, on Monday morning, and things were going awry, and big jobs they do. But he inspired me, and I was like, yeah. So anyways.
Rob, how are you feeling about yes and when it comes to let's shift gears away from business real quick or projects and focus on the people. How are you kind of seeing or envisioning yes and like, hey, our teams are burning out. We know our teams are dealing with some personal shit as well. We know that with this data center boom, we've got the triple shifts going all full speed ahead, right? And we know we're burning people out. We're not replacing them fast enough. Yes. And what if we start deploying tools to help the mindset of the people, to help them deal with burnout? Yes. And what if we deploy BAMO, like we talked about last week, things like that? How are you kind of seeing that shape out, Rob?
I think it's a brilliant mantra, man. What I'm curious is to dive a little deeper into your mindset of how do you cultivate this yes and environment where we all kind of know it, construction, let's be honest, it can be a brutal world. You're just talking about the superintendents. It's my way or the highway. I've joked about, the Judge Dredd mentality. So if you want to empower people and get into the and, you're talking a little bit in a conversation earlier about the power of threes, and you've got, three things that are kind of driving your life in particular. If we talk about learning, the creation that you do with your music, or more importantly, your health, can you dive a little bit into that? Like, how does the power of the three concept enable this mantra for people to make that mindset shift?
Yeah. Look, I hit rock bottom over the last couple of years. I mean, I literally lost everything I worked for 20 years. And, I knew all this kind of, in all the years, like nothing that I'm doing today is stuff I didn't know. I just needed to put a plan in place and execute the plan, right? The story behind that superintendent was a yes and story, but he didn't use the word yes and. He just used it in his own way, but I made the connection, yes and. So in the powers of three, in life, we learn, we grow, we move. Innovation, there's three key things. We need to inspire people to change their attitude. We then need to change their behavior by engaging them in a new way. So inspire, engage. And in order to deliver innovation, we need to partner because no one person delivers on innovation. Ben Franklin wasn't the person who innovated. He had a whole bunch of people working with him. But we only hear about the one person, Elon Musk. Fucking, I mean, come on, like, give me a break, man. This marketing shit is just ridiculous. It's about people. It's about bringing people together. So like there's three things in my life that I focus on. And it's really driven around innovation because like I said, innovation is about helping people succeed. And so there's like three things. The first thing is really around leading with love and respect, right? Because again, people first. Right? I always lead with love and respect. You always see me with a smile. Every time you see me, I got a smile on because I want you to have a good experience with me. But I have zero tolerance for bullshit and I have zero tolerance for disrespect. You disrespect me, the Brooklyn is going to come out and I'll be direct. and you will not like what I have to say. And that hurt me a lot in my career because I was disrespected time and time again. And when my Brooklyn came out, people were not, they were like, who the fuck is this? You know, but like, I'm at the point in my life where I disconnect with anyone who provides value, no value to my life. You got to lead with love and respect with me, because I always lead with love and respect. The second one is really around, the idea of, in life today with social media, like we are consumers, we're constantly consuming. And, the best times that I remember is when I was creating, that's why music is so important to me. Like the ukulele, like the story behind the ukulele was I was in Hawaii and we used to get together with friends at weekends, like little potlucks, and like we would all hang out, we'd be on the beach, we'd go surf and come back, and then people will bring out the instruments, guitar, drums. We just sing, and like, and I was always there like, damn, this is cool, man. I don't know how to do any of this. I just love this. Like I remember my best friend in Davy G, he was a cat from Florida. He lived in Hawaii. He owned a car shop in Hawaii. We were great friends, and we would hang out, and he'd just bring out his guitar, man. And he'd just start playing and singing, and we were just hanging out, and it was like, and then I left Hawaii and I never like picked it up, and I was like, man. So I got a ukulele because I traveled a lot, and I was like, let me learn this, man. I learned it on YouTube. It was self-taught. And the reason why I'm telling the story is because creativity became so important. So I started to say, screw it, I'm not consuming anymore. I got rid of social media, TikTok, all that bullshit. There's nothing but hate and bullshit on all those platforms, man. It was sucking my life away. I was buried in it, like so many people, especially in 2020. And then I was like, screw this, man. I'm starting to create. So I create a routine. I wake up and I start creating as soon as I wake up. I wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning in the dark. I go outside, breathe some fresh air. I come back in. I pick up my instrument. I start creating. When you practice an instrument, you're using both sides of your brain. You're connecting your motor skills with your creativity. I'm practicing the same song. I've been working on a song by Metallica for the last 2 months. Nothing else matters, and it's been awesome. And it's like I learned I download the sheet music, but then I create it and I make it my own. I change up finger picking with strumming, and and I make it my own. And it's about creating. And then I'm learning Spanish, so I got access to Pimsleur, which is like an audio-based learning app. And every morning I take a half-hour course. So I spend an hour of my morning, first thing, after I hydrate, creating. And then I move my body, man. I'm moving my body. I'm constantly, I do a little Shaolin movements, basic movements to get my blood moving. And then I have my mushroom coffee, and then, I start my day. And by sunrise, I'm outside getting the first rays of that sun to reboot my biological rhythm, and that's when I start work. And I start work right away, and I go. So like it's about creating. It's like get away from consuming, and like it's hard because like we are built to consume in this society, marketing and all this stuff, and and then the third part is to focus on my health. Like, man, we all know the same. It's not like any of this is new, man. This is ancient, knowledge. But, I went from like 30 pounds overweight. And again, I'm a small guy. I'm not, a big person. But you 30 pounds overweight, high blood sugar, like, pre-diabetic, they wanted to give me medications and shit. And I was like, fuck you people, man. I was like, they're always pushing drugs, man. And these drugs, it's so funny to me and how blatantly disgusting it is that you see a big pharma commercial on a drug, right? And there's people smiling and everybody's happy. And next thing you know, there's a whole section that's talking about all the frickin' symptoms. Yeah, you take this to solve this, but it'll give you 15 other problems. That's medicine? Yo, that's some crazy bullshit right there. It's pretty simple, man. And let me tell you something. It took me a year, but I built a plan. I got the plan on my wall. I wake up, I see it. I eat clean. I only eat single ingredient food. I don't buy
Mhm.
that processed bullshit anymore. You buy something in a package, you read the ingredients, you can't pronounce it, you don't eat it. I don't put that shit in my body. I stopped drinking alcohol. I don't put that poison in my body. I stopped smoking weed and doing all that stuff. It was cultural for me. I grew up smoking that. But it's okay to drink socially and go drive a car and fucking kill somebody. But I'm a bad person because I smoke weed. It's like it's all twisted, man. But I don't do that anymore. And then I move my body every single day. If I wake up in the morning, I do some exercise to get my blood moving. I swim about 50 laps almost every day. That's in a 25-meter pool. I ride my bike, multiple times a week. I go to the gym and I'm out in nature, man. I spend as much time outside as possible. And that, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in no medication. At one point I was on mental health medication. I was fucking misdiagnosed by people who had no cultural concept of the shit I was going through. To be perfectly honest, white therapists and white psychologists who just pushed drugs on me and gave me labels that then was used against me in the courts and by the police. I mean, the shit that I could tell you that happened to me, man. Fuck. Talk about adversity and how busted this system is. Unreal. But let me tell you something. Now, I'm a different level, man. I'm
Mhm.
ready to rock, and I ain't letting nobody. I focus on solitude too. I keep myself away from any negative experiences, any negative people. I'm not going to be rude. I'll say hello and hi to everyone. I lead with love and respect. But as soon as you talk bullshit, I'm out. I'm not even going to say anything. See ya. Have a great day. I'm out.
Mhm.
I don't put up with that. And